What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Mind of Marsal podcast. This is episode number 103. I am your host, Armando Marsal. You can find all of my work over at fantasyguru.com. Follow me on the Machine at Armando_Marsal, as well as on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Mind of Marsal. Remember, folks, before jumping into it, I just want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in. I greatly appreciate you all. Last week, took a little time off, and it wasn't because I wanted to. It was I got a little under the weather. I was going to record the podcast. We were going to take a break from the team previews because my guy Tyler Buecher was out there on a vacation, but unfortunately could not record. But we are back at it today, and we're going to continue our team previews here. My guy Tyler Buecher is back. How's it going, brother?
Doing great here. Excited. Doing great here. Excited to chat some NFC East here. Get back into these descriptions of what we're expecting for the upcoming season. Yeah, I missed doing it. The week off was nice. Got a little sun, a little fun. Now excited to get back into the trenches with you.
Yeah, man, it's been fun. You got a little time off. Well, mine wasn't as fun, but you know what? I did get a little break. But you know what? I'm ready to talk football here again, dude. Lots going on. We're gonna talk a little bit about the NFL, U.S. Olympics, and flag football tonight on the live stream, the roster coach live stream at 7 p.m. Eastern each and every Tuesday night there at fantasyguru.com. Why don't we chat a little bit before we start breaking down into the NFC East? Like, what are your thoughts on the Olympics having flag football here?
I'll be honest, I've never really cared about the Olympics. This might be the thing that's the turning point, and I'm finally interested in watching it. As a while, like I think as a kid, I enjoyed watching I'm thinking back to like '98 Nagano or something like that, or the Tokyo ones forever ago. That was probably the last time I was interested in the Olympics. Really just hasn't been my sport. How about you? Are you super into the Olympics?
I'll watch it from time to time. Like it depends. There's certain events that especially the kids like and or the wife likes and stuff like that. I'll sit down and watch. I personally don't go out of my way to watch. I do watch obviously the basketball. Like that's the one that intrigues me a lot when they're on in the Olympics. But man, this is going to be fun because I've read and I've heard and I've discussed have had conversations where people think that it's flag football is different and you could get someone off the street to come and compete with someone like Justin Jefferson or someone like Josh Allen. It's very simple. That's not going to happen. All right. These are like the one percenters. I'm sorry. Do you agree with that? Because I've heard like where people can say I can go in there and there's a different technique or I'd be a better flag football quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. I've seen all these videos and I call bullshit. I call bullshit. Tyler, what say you?
Yeah, I call BS too. Yeah, I don't see that happening. I know that there is an official league for the flag football where they want to uh, claim their stake at the ability to run for it and represent the country. Curious to see. Maybe we have like a NFL versus the official flag football league champions go head to head the year prior as the tryouts to see who represents the U.S. in 2028. But that'll be fun to see. Just a weird wrinkle to throw into a show, but I think it's a something that is very interesting and kind of just a fun talking point.
Yeah, we'll be talking a lot about that this evening, plus much more there. So make sure you check us out 7 p.m. Eastern there at fantasyguru.com. Tyler, you and I, we've been doing team previews for every division. Today, you and I are going to break down the NFC East. Your Eagles are in this division. Yeah, they won the Super Bowl last year. They won the division last year with an impressive 14-3 record. Washington was second with a 12-5 record. I think a lot of people were surprised by that. Really great season there from Washington. I expect that to continue here this year in 2025. Then you had Dallas at 7-10, and look, they dealt with a lot of injuries. I think this is a team that, you have your quarterback back this year. You made some defensive additions. We're going to talk about some things there. And then the Giants were, last year 3-14. Don't think there was any surprise there. I think this team is still, behind when you look at this division. They're still in somewhat of a rebuild mode, right? So a team that right now I don't think will be competing in this division, but I definitely think is taking the steps in the right direction to move forward here. But we're gonna go team by team like we always do, and alphabetically order like we always do. So we'll start off with the Dallas Cowboys here, and they some key losses. They lost Jordan Lewis, Rico Dowdle, Demarcus Lawrence, Zach Martin, Brandon Cooks. Chauncey Golston. They added Javonte Williams. I think that's a big topic of discussion here. They also drafted Jaden Blue. They added Miles Sanders. Like they've added some pieces to this backfield. They've added a lot of pieces to the defense as well. Some offensive pieces here as well. So a lot of new players here for Dallas this season. I still have them third in the division when I'm looking at, where I think they're going to be this year because I do believe that Washington's peak last year, I don't think that was a one-year hit. I think that this team is going to continue. They made a lot of movement this offseason and in the draft that I like as well. That I think it's going to be another step in the right direction here. But as far as Dallas is concerned, where do you see, how they did here in this offseason in the draft?
Yeah, it's a good question. Last year they were the league's highest scoring offense. To see them kind of just crater after the 8 games Dak played, kind of a shame to see how that all unraveled. But you said it best, where it was really just an injury-driven thing. They were among the league's most injury-struck team in terms of the impactful players that lost a significant amount of time, and Cooper Rush just clearly not able to carry the torch in the same manner. I think they went 4-4 under his starts, if I'm not mistaken. Um, yeah, I think this offseason, they brought in the Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders duo. Javonte, I don't know. I think he's just been underwhelming since returning from injury. Unfortunately, he's just never been that same guy that was that elite missed tackle force per carry guy we saw coming out of college. Since those injuries have piled up, and I just don't see the vision here with Dallas. I mean, they're trying something new. I'll give them credit for that, sure. But I think the real exciting thing is the trade for George Pickens. If he can get his head on straight, we could see a lot more offensive production here from this unit, and hopefully an upgrade over what we've seen from some of these field stretchers that Dallas has swung and missed on multiple times in multiple drafts. Hopefully Pickens is that solution here. Yeah, what are your thoughts on Pickens here as the big offseason transaction?
I like the move for Dallas, and I think it's a good fit, right? Like they've been looking for that player that can stretch the field, someone that can complement CD Lamb. Like CD Lamb could do everything. We know that. But someone that complements him, and they've swung and missed, I think, here a couple times. They didn't work out as they wanted with Brandon Cooks. I know he was efficient at times, but just not what they were looking for. Michael Gallup never worked out. They traded away Amari Cooper. Like we've seen kind of like a revolving door here. So like you mentioned, if he can keep his head on straight, I think this is a good fit for him. I think he'll have, I don't want to say a safe week to week floor, but I do think his floor is going to be safer than when it was in Pittsburgh. When you're looking at from a fantasy standpoint, because I do think Dallas is going to throw a lot here. When you're looking at their build and when you're looking at in this division, they're going to be, in my opinion, a lot of shootouts. This defense is good, but there's still, some players returning from injury, and there's some holes still here for this defense. So when you look at this, I think that because of that, it's gonna impact the offense positively from a fantasy standpoint. So I like Pickens here. I don't think he's gonna be a safe weekly floor, but I do think he's gonna be. Uh, I think he's gonna give you more peak weeks than he was giving you in Pittsburgh. I just think this is a better fit. I think this is a team that's gonna pass a little bit more here this season. Do you agree with that? Do you think this is a better fit for Pickens?
I thought Russ was a great quarterback pairing with him, given how well Russ has thrown the deep ball for years and years. He's unfortunately just 36 years old, going on 37. That play kind of deteriorated, especially over the back end, the final 4 games. Pittsburgh's just kind of wasn't really in anything. So yeah, I think going back to Dak, who's coming off a hamstring injury. Luckily, it wasn't like a shoulder injury or anything like that impacting his throwing motion. So I'm expecting Dak to come back and throw the ball pretty well to Pickens, whose ADP continues to climb. Like just over the last week or so, was in the 60s. Now he's at 53.2 ADP over on Underdog. Pickens has been a big climber, up to wide receiver 30 right now.
Where are you at with him as far as do you want like him as a wide receiver three? Or are you more comfortable with him as your wide receiver four? You could talk both best ball and season long if they're different.
Yeah, that's a fair question. I'm in the best ball mindset right now, but redraft, he's typically a player that I don't target. This year, I think that I could change and be willing to pivot on that if he falls below ADP and he's more of a value selection. The problem for me is just that there's a lot of players going off the board where he is going that I'm also kind of interested in, particularly at like the running back position. RJ Harvey, really, really like him. Chuba Hubbard, Kenneth Walker. It honestly just looks like a great spot where I'm probably going to go receiver heavy early in drafts. By the time we get to Pickens in like the round 5 range, I'm switching more to the running back position. So even George Kittle, you get throw him in there too. So usually that's more of a pivot place for me instead of the wide receiver position. But yeah, I think he's like right in the mix of like some of those volatile players like DK Metcalf, Zay Flowers, Calvin Ridley. They're all going right around him in ADP, and it makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's right about right when you look at it from a best ball. I agree 100%. Like I feel like he's better suited for best ball still. In season long, I'd probably feel more comfortable with him in a start sit format, like a flex option, like a wide receiver force flex option. And if he pans out, great. But that's kind of where I want to be buying him. Um, Maybe just maybe a wide receiver three man, but I'd have to have two really high floor plays as my top two receivers to make that kind of decision with my wide receiver three position there. When you look at this backfield, it's a completely new look. I mean, you mentioned they added Javonte Williams, they drafted Jalen Blue, Miles Sanders is in the mix. Like I was asked this question this morning when I spoke to Ray on FSD show there, and he asked me, how I saw this playing out. I think this is still not settled. I think this is a situation where we can see some form of committee. If I'm taking a player, I am going to be shooting for upside and ceiling, and I think at this point, Blue is the one that's most intriguing to me when it fits that category. I think his path to opportunities is not going to be that difficult here. Um, where are you at with this backfield, and who do you like? Are you drafting anyone?
It's tough. I mean, last year's unit was not great in terms of run blocking. They kind of dropped the ball there. The offensive line just kind of a unit in transition. They did add Tyler Booker here with the round one selection. Like that's pick for them. Curious to see where he plays on the line. I think we could see him at guard. They also added Robert Jones for Miami, who's also could be like maybe a swing offensive lineman, maybe that sixth guy. So it really just comes down to the blocking up front. I'm not sold on Javonte. I'm not sold on Miles Sanders as anything more than a replaceable back. So Blue's kind of just the wild card unknown. And I'm not saying that in terms of like that the question mark is the thing to target, but usually ambiguity kind of breeds some opportunity in terms of the fantasy landscape. There's a chance Blue emerges. We've seen both Javonte and Miles Sanders strike out to see a guy like Blue get a new chance, and it kind of makes sense to me as the guy to take a swing on. The problem is we just don't know, and I think you're right where the most likely outcome is a committee of sorts where maybe down the road Blue emerges, but it's just honestly not a backfield I'm excited to be investing in. I think this is going to be a team that passes heavily, uses a lot of motion with Brian Schottenheimer now as the play caller. Um, yeah, so I'm really just more interested in like Lamb, Pickens, and Dak over any of these running backs. How about you?
Yeah, it's not a situation I really want to be overly invested in. If I do, it'll probably be Blue. Like that's kind of where I feel like I want to be invested in. But I agree with you. I think the passing game is kind of where I'm most interested in. I think you're getting, outside of Lamb, you're getting, and then well now Pickens is going up, but I think Prescott's price is not that bad. Like I don't think it's bad where he's going. Let's transition to Dak Prescott because he's someone that's so intriguing to me. Like I'm looking at his points per game, right? And going to 2016, it's 20.7, 18.7, 21, 24, 32, 23, 19, 23, 17.3. Those are good numbers. Like those are good numbers. And if I'm not mistaken right now on Underdog, he's being taken as QB2, right? QB 14 overall. I think that's good value for Prescott. Like, where do you stand with him this season? Because if we think he's going to pass, he's been someone that produces pretty solid numbers when he's healthy. Are you buying in on Prescott this season?
He's been such a wild card. Like usually the ceiling is sky high for him sometimes, where for a guy that's not the most mobile, he does have some mobility. But a guy for that's the most mobile, he's got multiple top eight fantasy campaigns under his belt. The problem for me is how does he look after the hamstring injury? I'm really curious to see the mobility there and how often he's utilized as a rusher. Just given that that's going to be super important for his fantasy value. He's a guy that's gotten by through pass volume and pass touchdowns over the last few years. I really don't mind him as a QB2. I think he's got a lot more volatility to him where I think the floor is probably a mid-range QB2, and that's fine. That's where you're drafting him. But the ceiling, I mean, there's like, again, I think there's top eight potential if everything goes right for him, which, again, there's a lot of question marks for that. Does the offensive line gel? Are the weapons going to immediately produce for him? How does this running backfield shake out? What happens at tight end? To me, it's worth the risk. I just think there's other players I can be more confident in their ceiling that are going off the board at the same time as Dak. So if I'm in a super flex format, I'm fine with him. He's probably going to be a bit cheaper because people are usually less prone to take players coming off injury. He might be a guy I target in that format relative to like a best ball format or anything in that sort. What are your thoughts on Dak? Because he's a really polarizing player in my eyes.
Yeah, like I think where he's going is fair. I think it's good value because of what you said. He has a pretty significant ceiling where he can easily finish top 10, top eight, on a point on a per game basis, or even as QB overall. We've seen it, multiple times throughout his career. Um, the mobility is a concern, obviously, because of the hamstring issue, but I think it's more going to be on pass volume here, right? I think when you look at the this roster, this defense, this team, like the run game, like are they going to be able to efficiently run the football here in Dallas this season? Or are they going to rely more on Dak? Like these are things that I'm taking into consideration. I think there's going to be a lot of downfield plays here with Pickens. I think that's why they're bringing him in. I think there's a good supporting cast here for that, and I think he's going to have a solid season. I'm okay with taking up. So it's funny because we talk about players I'm okay with as my QB1. He's kind of out of that, for me.
Hmm.
I feel much more comfortable with him as my QB2, and then in the best ball, fine, I'll take him as a QB1 in a three quarterback build. If I go with that kind of approach with my roster construction. But in a redraft where I rather guys like Fields, I rather guys like maybe Drake May, Bo Nix. I feel like they offer safer floors on a week to week basis and maybe just as much upside as someone like a Dak Prescott. So, but I do think that where he's going is fair price. So I think he's priced appropriately here, and I'm totally fine in investing in him at his current price tag here. Um, let's talk the tight end position here in Dallas. Uh, obviously they have Jake Ferguson there. Top 10 tight end for you this season?
Uh, I think he's kind of right on that cusp. Um, Again, he's never really a player that I'm really interested in. I tend to target players that I think have more athleticism at this position or a path to more targets. He's just kind of not that guy. So, honestly, he's probably not going to be a player I prioritize, and he's going at a point in drafts where I'm probably looking elsewhere at another position. How about you?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. We kind of, I don't want to say a poor man's Dalton Schultz, but it's kind of like, it's not exciting, Like I'm not overly excited about Ferguson here. Like I'm looking at an okay floor, really not crazy ceiling kind of option for me. Um, Bottom end tight end one, like for me, I guess, like that's where I have him viewed. In a 12-team league, um, okay with him as my tight end one. Am I excited about it? No, probably not drafting him. At that point, I'm probably waiting it out to just kind of see how the tight end position plays out. Like that's usually how it is for me. Like when I get to that point where I'm not overly interested in the tight end, I'll just kind of wait it out at that point because I feel like there's some that can give me maybe a little bit more upside later in the draft and just a more volatile floor. So maybe that's a wrong way to approach, but that's kind of how I view Ferguson. He's kind of in that range for me that really don't care too much about him this season. And he's coming off the board as what? Let me see. Tight end. Pull it up here. Where is he? Huh. Where is
I didn't
he?
15.
Tight end 15, yeah. Yeah. I I'd rather go. See, I'd rather go Hunter Henry like 3 rounds later. Like kind of where I'm at. Um, so yeah, I know I'm on Ferguson here. Anything else here as far as Dallas is concerned?
Not particularly. Kevontae Turpin's a fun player. Shout out to USFL former MVP, but no, I don't think there's anyone else really here.
Yeah, there's not much for me here either. Um, Not even my boy Paris Campbell, ladies and gentlemen. Not even my boy Paris Campbell. That's
Pour one out for that.
yeah, that was poor one, no, poor multiple on top of that one. We've been pointing out. All right, let's talk about the New York Giants. And I mean, this is a team that they added two quarterbacks, free agency, and they drafted one. They retained DeVito. I mean, talk about an exciting quarterback pool there. So they added Russell Wilson. They signed Jameis Winston here. They also added a lot to the defense. Obviously, with their first pick was Abdul Carter, the good pick. They moved up back into the first round to take Jackson Dart. I still think this team is in rebuild mode. They're obviously a lot of pieces away from being a competitor, but I think they've made the right moves to a certain extent. I think there's too many options at the quarterback position here, for being honest. Like I think maybe one of Winston and Russell Wilson would have been good, especially if you're trading for Jackson Dart. But this is where we're at, Tyler. What are your thoughts here on New York going into this season, man?
I think Joe Shane was trying to keep his job, the general manager, and just throwing what he could at the wall, hoping something stuck at QB. And I really can't blame them for trying. Pardon me. They made a serious financial run at Matthew Stafford. They even hired his brother-in-law to help join the coaching staff. Um, Unfortunately, Stafford decided to go elsewhere and stay in Los Angeles, but the consolation prize to that was Jameis Winston. They got him pretty early in free agency. I think it was like a week or two later when they finally added Russell Wilson. It wasn't right at the beginning of free agency like it was with Winston. Russell Wilson was later added, where it may have been oh, I didn't realize this guy was still available at this price. And they kind of were like, okay, maybe we can do better than Winston. And they made the swing on Russell Wilson. Both these guys were acquired on relatively inexpensive contracts on relatively short durations, some of them incentive laden contracts as well. I get it. I get it. They're veterans. They add a bit more excitement to what Daniel Jones offered last year, who's now in Indianapolis. They had to do something. And these are guys trying to do whatever they can to keep their jobs. So it's making these swings in free agency and then trading back in round one to also get Jackson Dart. I think they did the right things in terms of setting the team up for success, keeping their jobs, and giving the fan base something to root for, which is the future in Jackson Dart. So I like kind of how it all came together. I just wish personally they had spent the number three pick on Shador Sanders. I would have made a lot more money with that. But I think I can't really blame how the general manager and this front office really went about this because once you solve the quarterback position, everything else kind of falls into place. It's the largest and the first domino. You got to take these swings, and I commend them for doing it. I'm excited to see how it plays out. Pardon me.
Yeah, I am excited to see how it plays out. Like this quarterback position. So I think for Jackson Dart, this is an ideal landing spot because you don't have to rush him into the fire right away, right? Like I wrote this in his player profile that I thought he would benefit from a situation where he can take the year off. Really, I know you don't want to hear that, especially if you're trading up to get him in the first round and you're doing all this stuff. And I know as a fan, you probably say, no, I want to see him right away. But I do think that this is a young man who's going to benefit from sitting behind Russell Wilson and or Jameis Winston, whoever it is starting. And I'm going to put you on the hot seat right away, and we're going to try to. I want to hear who you think is going to start, and who I think is going to start in week one. I don't think I know. I don't believe it's going to be Jackson Dart. I don't want to sit here and say I know for certain because you never know anything for certain. But I don't believe here is going to be Jackson Dart. I do think that from a dynasty standpoint, he's a good investment. From a redraft standpoint, I don't see much value in him because I just don't see him starting many games here unless it's out of necessity, right? So, week one starter for New York Giants, who do you think is going to be under center?
Well, they've already come out and said they plan on starting Russell Wilson at least through training camp and the offseason activities. To see if that continues all the way to week one is the big question. I envision it still being Russell Wilson, though, who will probably have the best command of the offense, the best uh, guy right now to start in terms of what he can offer in week one relative to the rest of the group. I think the bigger hurdle in terms of what I'm trying to figure out is when Dart takes over, because we saw Russell Wilson. His quarterback, I think it was 18 in combined EPA and CPOE, completion percentage over expectation, but that was largely boosted by just completion percentage over expectation. He was quarterback six in that category. He wasn't a guy winning you games. The EPA, it was 21st. So he's not a guy that's going to take this team to the next level week in and week out. This is a tough spot for when to switch to Dart because they have a week 14 bye week. It's the last one in the entire league. Like there's four teams that have week 14 buys. Giants are one of those teams. Generally, that's a great time for when a team and a franchise can swap over to the rookie quarterback. It gives them an extra week to prepare. They've got 2 weeks essentially to prepare for the upcoming opponent, uh, letting that guy get all the first team reps, letting him get all the practice, everything he needs to get ready for that performance. And I was going through their schedule earlier today, and I couldn't figure out a point when it made sense to switch to Dart. I think it could be something that comes down to injury. Maybe saying Russell Wilson, who's entering his age 37 season, maybe he picks up an injury at some point. Maybe it's just a disastrous outing. Maybe it comes against a primetime opponent or something like that. And they just feel the need to immediately go to the swap to Dart. But it's open-ended to me, which makes drafting Dart in best ball drafts a true wild card play. Same with Russell Wilson. Same with Jameis Winston. Uh, I honestly don't know when the swap may occur. Do you have any takes on that?
I don't even know if they go like so you're thinking they go straight to Dart if Winston struggles or gets hurt. I think they flip to Winston. Like
Mm.
I think they could just go to Winston, especially like I wouldn't be surprised if we see okay, so I agree with you. I think Russell Wilson week one starter, okay, sure. But how long does that last? Like I still think Justin Fields should have been starting over Russell Wilson last year, like in my opinion, like for Pittsburgh. Like that's my opinion. Like so you have someone behind you like Jameis Winston that if you're losing, at least he's gonna lose and make it exciting for your fan base. I don't know. I could see that. I could see them shifting gears to Winston. If they do go with Dart, I think what you said after the bye week makes the most sense. And I think they have enough, right? I think they're going to roster three quarterbacks here without a doubt. And, I think that they're going to carry three quarterbacks on their roster. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Dart inactive early on in the season with, Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston as your 1-2 guys. I maybe I'm seeing this situation completely wrong, but um, unless unless the GM has to prove Dart is their guy this year at some point, or his job is on the line, which could very well be the case. I could see this being a situation where they don't rush Dart into not really needing to until after the bye. So
Yeah,
I don't know,
here's my
man.
question though. If they start out poorly, okay, let's say that. What's the incentive to keep playing Russell Wilson if the team's not going anywhere? You're probably
None.
swapping off. So why would you not give those reps, those valuable reps, to a rookie rather than a 31-year-old Jameis Winston who's been through the ringer? We've seen it time and time again. I know fantasy wise we want to see it. Yes, I understand. Yes, I'm right there with you. I'm smiling ear to ear. But I also acknowledge that a swap to Dart is probably best in terms of the longevity of the front office and the coaching staff's careers, respectively. Let's say they're winning, like, and they get all the way to week 14. What incentive then is there for them to swap? They're probably just going to stick with Russell Wilson if that's the case, and he's still playing well. They're winning most of their games. They're competitive in the NFC East. So to me, it's more of a question of how early does this tank unfold, and when do they swap to Dart? Where I just don't see Winston seeing playing time. Maybe he's a trade candidate. Maybe he's a cut. Maybe he's uh, going somewhere else and playing for Pittsburgh a few weeks from now, or I'm sorry, a few months from now. Um, I just don't see the path to Winston playing, and maybe that's a block that I have in my brain. But it's funny that we both come at this from two different angles.
No, I just look at so it makes sense. What you say makes complete sense, right? Like the only thing is like I see it and I think of it as like why are we gonna put this quarterback who's not ready right now into that kind of situation? Like look at Anthony Richardson. Like I don't think he was ready. Like and now it's on off. Like sometimes when you put quarterbacks, and we've seen it in the past where like you put quarterbacks in situations that are not good situations and they're not ready to be in that situation, it can really hamper their development. And if they're really putting all their chips in the dart basket long term, and this is a shit show in New York, like do you really want him, or do you want to just keep one of the veterans out there taking the heat? I don't know, man. But you're right. Like, you know what? Sometimes they say, who cares? Like, cut the umbilical cord off and let's just like, let him run. Like, let him run before he crawls. But yeah, there's definitely multiple ways you can see it, right? Like, it's insane. It's a polarizing situation, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the only thing that's not polarizing is Malik Neighbors getting fed no matter who's under center.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I was asked like I went on with Bob Harris on the hot seat last week, and he asked me, where's who's that one player in that first round that you really want to get? And I'm like, look, Jamar Chase, obviously, right? But Malik Neighbors is like that guy I really want to draft because no matter who's throwing the football there, we prefer Jameis Winston because we know at least Jameis Winston's going to throw 50 plus times. But I'll settle for 35 plus, 40 plus times. I'll settle for that because we know that 28, 29% of those are going to be going to Malik Neighbors on a week to week basis. First round, right? Player, like top five receiver for you, maybe top seven receiver. I'm all in. Like, yes, count me in. I'm gonna have too many Malik neighbor shares in best ball, and I don't care.
I'm with you, man. I'll give you a little peek behind the curtain. So we're working on our draft guide, which is about to launch on June 2nd. Very,
Hmm.
very excited for that over at fantasyguru.com. And I'm working on our wide receiver outlooks, working on tiers. I've got Jamar Chase number one, Malik Neighbors number two.
There we
Uh,
go.
I'm
Yes.
I'm right there with you, man. This guy could easily, if not beat Chase in terms of total receptions, receiving yards, and the works. Maybe touchdowns are a bit more volatile there. But I just love Neighbors. I think this guy was a fantastic prospect. He's one of my favorite prospects I've seen in quite a while coming out of LSU. Hit the ground running. He was rightfully force-fed targets, elite volume, 32% target share, led the league also in targets per game, 11.1. Just broke Puka Nakua's reception record in 15 games played. Man, I am all the way in on Malik Neighbors. I entered 20 slow drafts at once, and I'm reaching for Neighbors in these quite a bit as my early round one selection, taking him above all kinds of different players, just trying to get a little bit different in this small field little tournament over an underdog. But I just want it all to be centered around Malik Neighbors' breakout.
Yeah, I'm all the way into, man. Like, look, I'm just gonna name you some quarterbacks here. Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, Tommy DeVito, Tim Boyle. All right. Listen to that lineup. All right. Now, my man finished with 109 catches, 1,204 yards, 11 touchdowns. Or I'm sorry, 7 touchdowns. It's 11 yards per reception. Sorry. Listen, that was with that quarterback. The quarterback room is much better this year. Okay.
Mhm.
Yes, I'm all the way in. Malik Neighbors, I couldn't agree more. I think that he has top five overall upside and ceiling here. And you can make a strong case for him being the number one player in fantasy after 2025. Like you have that, when you look at this team, like the defense, it's not good. They're in a tough division where they're going to be chasing points a ton. This is a team that's going to be chasing points a ton. I think a floor of 10 targets per game is very feasible here for someone like Neighbors. And when you have that kind of talent, getting those kind of opportunities, it's tough to pass up on. So yeah, if you take them with one of your top five picks, understand you got mine and Tyler's support at all times. So, the backfield, Tyler, how strong do you feel about the backfield? Well, before we move on to, I'm sorry to this. I'm sorry, Wando Robinson, Darius Slayton, Zach Pascal, all you guys, I apologize. We only talked about Malik Neighbors. Do you have any other interest in any of these guys here?
So Wan'Dale Robinson, in NFL history, we have 270 instances of a wide receiver picking up 90 plus receptions in a year. Do you want to guess where Wan'Dale Robinson ranks in fantasy points scored in 2024 as one of those 90 plus catch guys out of the 270?
He has to be 40 something.
He was 270th out of 270, dead last in fantasy points scored.
Oh,
I'm letting others take him in draft. He's a screen merchant, low A dot guy, not my cup of tea.
This is the way I see it. If you want your, let me see how many you had in PPR last year. PPR, your 10.7 fantasy points per game. All right. If that's what you want, sure. But like Tyler said, it has to be your cup of tea, right? He
Yeah.
only blends in with the high upside plays. If you have Metcalf, Zay Flowers, and who else? George Pickens. If you have those three as your receivers, maybe a floor guy like Wando Robinson fits the bill there. But other than that, shouldn't be mixing him in there. I had a lot of shares of him last year for that reason, like someone you can plug and play off the bench, but not someone I want to rely on each and every week. He did finish wide receiver 36 in PPR scoring, but he was 46 in PPR points per game. So goes to show you, like it's not pretty. He gets there, but it's not pretty. I like I don't have much interest here outside of Malik Neighbors in the receiving group for New York. Um, Kind of feel the same about this backfield. Tyron Tracy Jr., Devin Singletary, Cam Scatibo there. Where you at with this group? I was big on Tracy, but I kind of see this now as a little bit, foggier than what it was before. I think there's going to be more competition here than initially. Maybe I have a wrong read here, but where are you at with this backfield?
Let me just add one final touch on the receiver position. I do think Darius Slayton is worth that best ball selection, round 17, round 18, one of your final picks. He's just constantly there. Got the 3-year, $36 million contract. Really just kind of makes Jalen Hyatt an afterthought. I just wanted to at least mention Slayton because as a best ball bro, I'm obligated to contractually. Uh, I'll
Yeah.
also add Theo Johnson. I think he's super interesting, super athletic player coming out of Penn State. Uh, Rookie year was kind of marred by some poor play by the QB position, but he's slated to lead the depth chart. I like him as a tight end three and three tight end builds. He's a guy that I'll be drafting quite a bit of. So I wanted to mention them because they are definitely on my radar. The running back position, though, is super intriguing to me. Cam Scatabo is CMC 2.0 in my eyes in terms of what he can do as a rusher and receiver. Not to the level of CMC. Let me make sure that's clear. But he's the first FBS player since CMC with 1,500 rushing yards and 500 receiving yards. This guy can do it all. 225 pounds. He's an extra 15 plus pounds on Tyrone Tracy, who's more of the wide receiver RB hybrid. We saw that coming out of college, and he ended up just doing really well relative to what Devin Singletary offered in 2024. We saw Tracy eclipse him in terms of the gains of 10 plus yards, the percentage of those yards after contact per attempt. XFP. That said, I think there's still room for improvement. Tracy averaged 4.4 yards per carry. He was minus 0.07 rush yards over expectation per attempt. Fine. That's fine. That's baseline fine. I'm cool with that. But then they went out and they got Scattaboo, pardon me, who to me I think is a guy that's going to get more of those high value touches given his weight distribution there, 225 versus 210. I think Scattaboo is going to be that guy seeing the red zone and the green zone work. These guys are going almost back to back in drafts right now. Scattaboo 31, RB 31, Tracy RB 33. We've talked about the ambiguity of the Dallas backfield. I'm much more inclined to take one of these guys because both these guys are quality pass catchers. They're both guys that have also shown some explosiveness on the ground game. I don't care which one. I just don't mind leaving my draft with either one of these guys this year. In terms of a start sit format, it'll probably be a bit frustrating. I think there's going to be some volatility. Best ball, I don't care. I'm just taking a swing.
And I think it's good to diversify here. Like this is a great
Sure.
example of where you can diversify, where you can go 50-50. Because I agree with you. And I think they complement each other well, right? Like you mentioned what Scadaboo is. Like he's going to be more in the in between the tackle. He's going to be more a red zone threat. I think he's going to be involved in the short yardage situations, like when they got to get those tough yards. I think they'll lean on him. But he's also a good pass catcher, someone that could do a little bit of everything. Whereas Tracy, he did good in that department, but he was a wide receiver turned running back. Like we can't ignore the facts, and that's what he is. He did a very good job. He did struggle at times with fumbles, like and keeping the ball secure. Like that was an issue with Tracy at times last year. Um, but man, I was big on Tracy Jr., but I do think that he's gonna kind of take the backseat when it comes to the early down work to someone like Scadaboo. I do think that that's gonna happen. I think they're gonna use Tracy a lot more in the passing game. Um, don't think they'll line him up as a wideout, but he's gonna be in kind of some design plays out of the backfield where he does go out for passes and whatnot. So I agree with you, man. I think that they both can return value to a certain extent. But I also think it could be frustrating in the start sit format because it might not come consistently on a week to week basis. It could be where touchdown really depends on how they do on any given week.
Yeah, I think a true running back by committee is the way to approach this, and it could vary week to week, similar to Washington's backfield, which is something we'll
Yeah.
touch on in a bit. Um, yeah, that's how I view it.
Yeah, and then as far as what you mentioned, Theo Johnson, I'm good with that. Like you know, you kind of mentioned where you would draft him. I'm totally in lockstep with you. I think someone that is going to continue to take steps forward. I don't know if he's going to be quite there this year, but I do think he'll be more involved than he was last year, and definitely be a more of a focal. I don't want to say focal point completely, but more involved, more of a focal point in this offense than he was last year. That's for sure. I think he's one of their young and talented athletes that they have there. So, anything else here with the Giants that we didn't
No.
discuss?
Would you be shocked if Theo Johnson outscored Wandale?
No, no. So, like, I think Theo can hover in that tight end 16, 17, like with top 12 upside range. Like, if they really utilize him and he stays healthy, but I'm not drafting him as such. Like I think
No, you
there's
don't need
that,
to.
yeah, I think there's that kind of potential with him though. I think he could be someone that's a big threat in the red zone too. Like I think he could really establish himself as a big red zone threat. Like there's gonna be so much attention on Malik Neighbors that I think these secondary guys can make a statement. And Theo Johnson has all the skill sets to do so. Like he's big, and he's athletic. So I don't know. I drafted him and I have a couple shares of him in Dynasty because I was interested in his profile.
Mhm.
Um, I still think the future could be bright for him. Is he elite? Is he going to be elite this year? I'm not saying that, but I'm interested. I'm interested. I
Yeah.
like that call.
Tight
Um,
end 31 right now in ADP. I think he has a good chance of being a tight end too. So that means
yeah,
tight end 24 or
top
greater.
top 24. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he's like maybe like the Mike Gesicki of last year, where you were taking him late in rounds, and he's going to give you a couple of peak weeks, but maybe not as many. But he'll give you a couple of peak weeks. I think you get some big performance out of Johnson this year, especially if there's a team that's going to be passing a ton. And remember,
Yeah.
like it also depends on who's under center for the Giants. Like that's going to determine if it's Jameis Winston. Like yeah, he can get there. If it's someone else, maybe not as often. But um. All right, anything else here with the Giants? We spent a lot of time with that Jameis Winston talk. Philadelphia Eagles, you're Philly. They won the Super Bowl last year. I mean, this is a team that they're built to win again, man. Like they have a pretty good foundation. I know they lost some key pieces, especially defensively, and also on the offensive line. But I think they've done a pretty good job at retaining some of the key pieces. Obviously, we know Barkley, Nate Johnson. They added some nice players in the draft and free agency. Overall, I think Philly did a good job. It's people always say, well, yeah, they it's tough to keep everyone at, right? Like after winning a Super Bowl, like it's tough because there's people that are gonna want to go out and get paid. They won the Super Bowl already. Like, people things change. Like so I think they did an overall good job despite some of the key losses there, Tyler. How do you feel about your Eagles?
They retained a lot of the key offensive pieces, but the defense, they definitely let some
Yeah.
players go, which, like you just mentioned, it's tough for champions to retain those players. It's an expensive task. And they let several notable defenders walk as a result, especially at the edge position, safety position, corner. Um, they brought in some cheap guys on the offensive side of the ball, AJ Dillon, a pair of tight ends, and Harrison Bryant and Kylan Granson. To me, that's just like a trio of names that are you find on orphaned dynasty teams. Unfortunately, I don't think they're going to make any kind of impact. Honestly, I think they're more depth pieces than anything. Uh, but the draft class this year, it really was more focused on replacing those defensive guys who went out for the big contracts. They replaced them with the cheaper rookie contracts. They added some day three offensive linemen, but overall, it was just kind of a keep the band together on offense and see what we can retool on defense. That's kind of how I'd sum it best up. Um, they're the betting favorite right now to win the Super Bowl. Not really a play I like to make. I prefer long shots when I'm betting for the Super Bowl. So, but this is just a team that looks poised to do really well. Should Saquon Barkley hold up after 480 plus touches last year, including the postseason?
Such a beast, bro. We said it though. We said it
Oof.
last year. Like we talked about it. with you, with Russell Clay, with Rich Mileto. We all had that conversation. Like if he could stay healthy, like he could have a monster season, and he stayed healthy. He was running behind the best offensive line that he ran behind. Like he was playing on arguably the best offense he has played in throughout his entire career. Like all the stars aligned for him to have that kind of season. Like it just really did. It's just a matter of was he going to stay healthy was the biggest question mark, and he did. So if you took a chance and you invested in Barkley, like you were, I mean, you were winning a lot of your fantasy football leagues, like, or at least put in the position to. So we'll start right there. Like Saquon Barkley. I mean, look, we know who he is. He's going off the board as RB1 in most drafts. They added AJ Dillon. They still have Will Shipley there. We know Barkley's going to be their guy. We expect them to lean on him as heavily as they did last season. Are you looking now with the addition of AJ Dillon or Will Shipley there in his second season? Are you looking at any of these guys? I know you're not a handcuff guy, but we get asked this question a lot. Are you looking at any of these players as handcuffs? And then are you still going back to Barkley, treating him as RB1 on your board?
Yeah, today actually Philadelphia beat reporter Jimmy Kempski, he's one of my favorite beats for the Eagles. He reported that it looks like very clear that it's Shipley at RB2 over AJ Dillon. Dillon was signed to the vet minimum, so that shouldn't be too shocking. We saw Shipley sparsely utilized, but in the chances he did get, he looked pretty dynamic. Um, I'm interested because he's a player that's typically not going off the board where we traditionally see these upper end RB1s, the guys going round one, round two, where their handcuffs are typically going. He's down at pick 181 overall. That's very, very late for a guy who's supposedly the handcuff for the Eagles RB1, a guy that's coming off 482 touches. Um, I'll just say the 482 touches. It's a number I'm repeating a lot because it's a lot of opportunity. And we've only seen three other backs pick up 450 plus touches in a season, which includes the regular and the postseason. None of those played a full season the next season. All three of them saw drastic declines in their fantasy point per game output. I don't want to be a wet blanket, but I'm just saying the numbers are not pointing great towards Saquon surviving a full 17 game slate. Maybe he bucks that. Maybe he breaks tradition and the historical small sample size that I'm alluding to here. It's just a dangerous selection with your round one pick. I'm pivoting comfortably to Jamar Chase as my number one overall pick. I'm comfortably pivoting to Bijan Robinson, someone I'd rather invest in over Saquon Barkley, which may feel like a hot take, but I don't think it is at all. Um, I just worry when we see it back with this type of volume, how they can hold up in the next season. Not everybody's built like Derrick Henry.
No, no way, no way. Like, no. So it's funny because I kind of view him as McCaffrey last year. Like when you were on the clock, do you want to take McCaffrey? Do you want to not take McCaffrey? I was just taking Jamar Chase. Like I kind of did the same thing, pivoted
Mm.
to Jamar Chase. I didn't want to be like holding the bag because I am genuinely concerned, like after the usage that we saw last year, what's going to happen here. And that's why I went directly because we know who he is, we know the backfield, but there's no secrets here in Philadelphia of who the running back is. That's why I instantly went directly to who do we want like behind him because I know once the quad pictures of AJ Dillon start showing up and popping up, the ADP is gonna climb, right? Like so ADP climbs with the picture of the quad, but Shipley is I'm interested in him. He's someone I had more shares with than I'm happy to admit in best ball last year. But I'm going right back to the well this year, I think, with Shipley. So I'm glad that you are on board there because I do think he's the next guy. I think we know we have an AJ Dillon, right? Like I don't think there's going to be anything like do do you think that now a change of scenery is going to help Dillon, or he is who he is? He's never lived up to the Derrick Henry, the next Derrick Henry. Right? Is
Yep.
that what it is?
Tough ask for anybody to be that. So no, I don't think it ever lived up to that. The days of Boston College dominance are in the rearview mirror. I am with you. Give me Shipley instead.
Jalen Hurts, again, this is pretty simple team. Like when you look at these two positions, right? Like Jalen Hurts, top five quarterback. someone who we know what he brings to the table. Um, are you taking him where he's going? Like we could talk about that because I think we could both agree he's a top five quarterback in fantasy. He's going to continue to do it. The tush push is legal. He's going to continue to get a ton of first downs for those in first down leagues. Draft him. But are you okay with taking him where he's going at this point?
So let me just list the ADP of the guys going ahead of him right now. Josh Allen, QB1 at 34 overall. Lamar Jackson, QB2 at 36. Jaden Daniels, QB3 at 42. And then Jalen Hurts, QB4 at 50. Kind of like the round five pick a bit more. I'll throw Jaden Daniels in there too. I'm super, super high on Jaden Daniels. We'll talk about him in a moment. Um, I'm comfortable with it. I would definitely be doing it in redraft leagues. It's also a situation where you can stack easily in best ball in my eyes. So yeah, I'm in. I'm in. The problem with Hurts is volume. Like he's just had like a career low pass attempts per game last year. He was super efficient. He had his most accurate season to date, his highest passing touchdown rate to date. He was number two in completion percentage over expectation. There are a lot of stats to like about him. He averaged over 40 plus rushing yards per game. That's essentially adding a passing touchdown onto his fantasy ledger every single week. Great. And then we add in that he's had double digit touchdowns 4 straight years. He's been a top six fantasy quarterback 4 straight years. I'm okay with it. I don't see any reason to go away from it. We also know it's a super concentrated target tree in terms of the volume going to AJ Brown and Devonta Smith. Between those two guys, what Saquon Barkley offers, Philadelphia is really super concentrated where to put your chips in. And Hurts makes sense to me. I think he's got a guy that's a fantastic floor, great ceiling. I'm in.
Yeah, I echo what you say there. I mean, just to kind of add, like his role in the red zone, like it's significant. So he accounted for 37.7% of the red zone rush attempts for Philly. Like Jalen Hurts is that guy in the red zone. Like there's teams that abandon the run with their quarterback, Baltimore. Philly does not do that. They continue to use it hurts in this part of the field. Like for perspective, Saquon Barkley had 55 rush attempts inside the 20-yard line. Hurts had 49. Like so the role is, like you said, very concentrated here. When they get in there, you know who they're going to run the ball with. And it's going to be either Hurts or Barkley. So yeah, I agree, man. I think you're looking at a safe floor, significant ceiling, and like you said, the concern was the passing volume. But if there's, any slight change in the run game, right? If Barkley misses any time, I would expect the passing volume to go up for Philadelphia. I don't think they'd be running the
Mhm.
football as efficiently as they did with Barkley, in the backfield. So that is definitely something that if you have some concerns about Barkley, an incentive there for Jalen Hurts. There. All right, you mentioned obviously the receiving group here, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. Talk to me a little bit about these two. Where is Brown in that beautiful Outlook article that you're doing?
He is not in the tier one group, unfortunately. And that's primarily just because I like five receivers a bit more. He's, I think, like six or seven in that list, so he's not far behind. But I like him in round two. I think he's a confident selection there. For anybody who's looking for a RB wide receiver build, Brown's usually in the middle of round two right there. What's great about Brown and Devonta Smith, let me just lump them two together right now, is the two are one of just a handful of receiver tandems that combine for over 50% of the target share. And when you look at the air yard share, the two combine for 82.5% of the air yards in this offense. There isn't anywhere else to look. It's these two guys. They like Jahan Dotson was the league leader or the team leader in routes run, which kind of surprised me, but it was doesn't mean he was getting a lot of volume or opportunity. Dallas Goedert, rumored to be a trade candidate during the NFL draft. He ended up sticking with the Eagles. This guy was, again, a super efficient player. He was one of the best separators at his position last year. He was tight end two in yards per out run. Unfortunately, he just drew like an 18% target share rate, which um, left him at fantasy tight end 10. That's fine. It's not exciting. It's replaceable. So I don't know. I think the real answer is just going toward AJ Brown and Devonta Smith. Brown's just been a consistent juggernaut, top three yards per out run producer, two of the last 3 seasons. Devonta Smith, I mean, I think if you look back to some point, like maybe the midpoint in 2023 to today, his fantasy production has actually eclipsed what AJ Brown has done. over that same time period. And the two have really only missed 2 games over the 3 years they've played together. So there's only been a situation where Brown's been sidelined and Devonta Smith has been that wide receiver one. In those instances, Smith is averaging 17.8 fantasy points per game. That's wide receiver one status. It's a small sample, so I'll throw that away. Looking at the 3 year span in total, he's averaging 14.8 fantasy points per game. That's smack dab middle wide receiver two. So if you miss out on Brown, Devonta Smith going 2 rounds later makes for a fantastic consolation prize in my mind. You're getting two guys that are just seeing a lot of volume, and let me rephrase, a big share of volume on a small pie. But we know where it's going. It's one of these two guys, and you're getting access to an offense that's top 10 in points per game. So I'm in on these guys. I think they're fine buys at their current costs. Um, I don't even mind let's say you do a round two Brown, round four Smith, round five Hurts triple stack. I think that can also be viable in best ball tournaments. It's just a lot of equity to put into one team. That said, people do it with the Bengals. I think you can do it with the Eagles as well.
I think if there's a team to do it with, like Bengals being one of them, like you mentioned, I think this is another team to do it with because it's the concentration of the target share. Like that's what it is. Like when I'm looking at the numbers right now, AJ Brown, 35% target share. Devontae Smith, 29% target share. This is in the 13 games that they each played, right? You mentioned the air yards, 47 percent for one, 31% for the other. That's insane. Like you know where the football is going. Like combined, they average 20.5 targets per game, 11.1 for AJ Brown here, and 9.4 for Devontae Smith. Like it's easy to stack because you know where the football is going. That doesn't mean that it's a guarantee high-end production each and every week. It means there's going to be opportunities each and every week. So like, yeah, I am fully on board with this Eagle stack. I think it's a very easy team to stack because you can make it happen and you know where the ball's going, right? And I think that they're all appropriately priced. Even going to Barkley, I probably won't have a ton of shares of Barkley this year. I'm not saying I'm not going to be invested at all, but I'm not going to be overly invested in him. Um, but this is an offense that I think everyone's priced appropriately, and I'm okay with to invest in. So I agree with you 100%, man. I like this Eagles offense quite a bit. As far as Dallas Goddard is concerned, like, do you have him there with that kind of like Jake Ferguson's of the world, or are you more inclined to take someone like a Goddard over Ferguson?
So he's going right off the board at the same time. I think that's a very fair question to ask. It's kind of just to me getting access to an offense that has top 10 scoring potential where Goddard kind of makes sense. But again, I mentioned that the low target share, it's just not elite for a guy like Goddard, where he just runs like a lot of shallow crossing patterns. Every now and then he'll have a tight end screen thrown to him. Um, he's the guy I'd rather select in best ball tournaments where let's say I get one of the two receivers for the Eagles. I would round out the stack by getting Goddard in round what 11 or so. Um, yeah, it's really just so concentrated where that's all we really need to worry about.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything here with the Eagles that we didn't discuss that you want to discuss? You mentioned the defense. Do you, they addressed a lot of that in the draft. Obviously, it's going to take some time, to kind of see how it plays out, shapes out. But based on the talent itself, are you feeling comfortable with this defense being able to produce in 2025?
Yeah, they've got a lot of players that are very, very exciting. I'm super on board. Grabbing Jahad Campbell at the end of round one was a steal. They just grabbed an injured player. He's unexpected to play right away. Andrew Makuba from Texas, the round two selection, another player I'm super excited to see how he pans out. The safety position is the big question mark to me after seeing CJ Gardner-Johnson go to Houston. But there's no real issue. I think this is a team that has so much talent and depth where they've even got guys like Keely Ringo just waiting to be a baller on the outside. He's a physical corner with great length. That's just kind of been buried on the depth chart. They just have so much talent, and the scheme has been fantastic. I'm not worried about it. I think the defense plays up to what they did last year, and it's really just going to be this offense puts opponents in a position where they're forced to play catch up, and it really makes it easier for the defense. They did lose some pass rush help, sure. They're going to need some other guys to step up. Nolan Smith, I really want to see if he takes a step forward, but for the most part, I like what they've done here, and I really like the young guys they've got here, the nucleus, the defensive line, the interior specifically. There's a lot to like in Philly.
And they've benefited from like some players falling too, right, in drafts because of either off the field issues or injuries, and they're in a position to take those kind of chances and risks. So if it pays out, they're getting talent, at good value there. So I agree with you, man. I think this defense is young, but I think it has a lot of talent. So and I believe I've seen the coordinator here. I believe in the system here. We've seen it. It's a successful one. So yeah, I think the future continues to be bright here in Philly. Speaking about bright futures, Tyler, Washington Commanders, man, let me tell you, it
Yeah.
was an impressive season last year. Um, I I was expecting it to be a fun and exciting offense, right? And I was expecting it to produce points, but not at the level it did. This exceeded my expectations, who I was already high on this offense. They continued to double down on this offense. They added Debo Samuel. I think the addition of Laramie Tunsil is huge for this offensive line, like to protect your young quarterback. Like, you got yourself a pretty much one of the best tackles in football in Laramie Tunsil there. They added, obviously some defensive players. They lost a lot of players on defense as well here. They did lose Cornelius Lucas as well on the offensive line. Um, and then they retained a couple of players as well here, Tyler. I think overall, Washington did a good job this offseason in the draft. They didn't have a ton of picks. They had five picks in this year's NFL draft. And in the first round, they, pretty much went tackle with John uh, Connerly there. Then they went cornerback, receiver, linebacker, running back. I'm okay with everything they've done here, Tyler. I think they're continuing to put the pieces together for the young quarterback Jaden Daniels to take another step forward in 2025. How do you feel about Washington this upcoming season?
Agree. So last year, big year in transition. They brought in a brand new coaching staff. They brought in a brand new quarterback. It just felt like a brand new chapter essentially for the Washington franchise. And uh, hell yeah, 12-5 record. They were one of the most exciting teams to watch year in and year out. Sky high optimism. They've got their sights set on a Super Bowl. I like what they did on the offense in terms of bringing in Tunsil and Connerly, like you said, reinforcing the tackle positions. Debo, a notable ad there. They traded for him. They re-signed a lot of players too. I think they really liked what they built internally, and they returned a lot of those guys: Marcus Mariota, Jerry McNichols, Noah Brown, KJ Osborne, Zach Ertz. A lot of these guys that were on last year's, even John Bates, tight end. They brought them all back. Um, the rookie, I really like Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, their seventh round pick. You mentioned they didn't have a lot of draft picks. I thought they'd spend one on, earlier than round seven on a running back because they don't have anybody on this contract beyond 2025 at the RB position besides this new rookie, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, who coming out of Arizona and New Mexico State, got suspended last year, but the year prior, he was a fantastic prospect. He has got a lot of sleeper appeal, especially if one of Brian Robinson or Austin Eckler were to go down with any kind of injury. So I kind of just really like everything they've done this offseason. They're a bit older on defense. The only thing I want to knock them on is letting safety Jeremy Chin walk, who's, if you play any kind of IDP leagues, he's a tackle monster, fantastic leader on the back end. I thought letting him go was a poor move, but outside of that, I don't really have too much negative things to say about Washington. I'm excited for them in year two. I think them, the Eagles, both could contend for 10 plus wins. Dallas could also be in the mix. Um, New York might have their lumps. They might go 0-6 in the division. But I do think the three other teams have a legitimate shot at double digit wins, with Washington certainly being in the mix there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that they're going to be super excited to watch once again. Like Jaden Daniels, he played exceptional football last year. Like he really did. He came in there like high pressure moments and like elevated his game to the next level in certain like high pressure situations. Yes, he didn't make all the throws. Yes, he didn't make the best decisions at all times. But man, let me tell you, I was very impressed with watching him play football. Very accurate. Was able to make the deep pass. Like he checked off pretty much every box last season. And I think that, the fact that they're continuing to build around him, the team, the team is excited. All right. This team is excited
Yeah,
and rightfully so. You mentioned you were going to talk about Jaden Daniels. Let's talk about him. He finished QB5 in fantasy points last year. He was QB8 in PPR points per game. Top five quarterback for you again?
for sure. Yeah, I don't mind if anybody wants to take him as their first quarterback selection off the board, even. This is a guy that I think has a legitimate chance to make an MVP run, Offensive Player of the Year run. We just saw him win Offensive Rookie of the Year, and he scored the second most fantasy points ever by a quarterback behind only Cam Newton. This guy, to me, the ceiling is sky high. And if you want to make a blemish on him, it's the propensity to take sacks. And there's, I forget who said it, but there's a theory of like a three-pronged stool where quarterbacks, when under pressure, they either succeed, pardon me, to the pressure where they get sacked. They either throw the ball out of bounds or they throw it into harm's way. So you can either go either direction when pressure starts getting applied. And Daniels, super accurate QB, he didn't throw the ball away. He didn't throw it into pressure. He took those sacks, and he had one of the higher sack rates in the league. I think it was top seven. But what was different about his sacks were they were in the formula of him stepping up in the pocket. He was consistently taking sacks that were 2 to 3 or 4 yards deep rather than like the 9 to 10 yard drive killing sacks. So he wasn't putting them out of the ability to convert for a first down on like a second or a third down if he took it on first or second, respectively. He also wasn't putting them out of field goal range consistently. Um, this is just a guy who's still learning to play the position. He's still kind of young. Cliff Kingsbury, really, really impressed with what he did after his what did he do? The year in Thailand. I don't know what he did. But I'm just really excited to see his return here. I think there's nothing but optimism with Daniels, who was super accurate in the system. The RPO system, they work to a charm. The only issue, and it's the same thing we talked about during our dynasty talks a year ago from now, was that he's listed at 210 pounds, which feels awfully generous. I think he's closer to 200 or maybe even under that. And those types of players are susceptible to big hits, the type that leave you out for multiple weeks. So if Daniels can continue to get down early or run out of bounds like he did last year, QB1 overall finish, MVP total possibility, does range of outcomes. Just need him to stay healthy. And I'm praying. I want these guys to stay healthy because it makes the fantasy world so much more fun when these dual threats like Lamar and uh, Daniels are able to do what they do best. There's just that concern, and I always got to voice it because when you're a smaller built quarterback in that kind of frame, it's a legitimate threat to your potential ceiling and total outcome.
Do you have him in the same tier as Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts? I'm assuming you have those
Yeah,
three in the same tier. Okay.
yeah.
So that
And
that
again,
would be your tier one quarterback.
correct. And I don't care if you take Jaden Daniels number one among that group. I think he has the ability to finish as the top guy.
Well, and that's the thing with tiering, right? Like you're pretty much saying they're the same quarterbacks in the same tier. Like you're okay with any of them
They're
as a
comparable,
top,
yeah.
yeah, as a top tier. So yeah, I agree with you. Like I feel like he has QB1 upside. I feel like he has QB1 potential. And they've made the moves to make it happen. Like they got beefed up the offensive line. I think Samuel is a I think he's a sneaky addition because I don't think he's going to be like. I still look at, and we're going to talk about receivers. Now, I still think Terry McLaurin is the guy in Washington. He's your number one wide receiver. That's not changing because Debo Samuel's in the mix. Now you just have an additional weapon who, when healthy, can make a lot of the nothing, right? Like a little short pass can turn into a huge play. Like there's that huge play, the big play ability that player that can make a big difference off one catch, the yards after catch. And Debo Samuel brings a lot of that toughness and a lot of that ability to this offense. So it's just a different dynamic that you're giving to an
Hmm.
already talented quarterback here. So I'm 100% on board with you when it comes to Jaden Daniels. Let's talk about the receivers, okay? Because they obviously have Terry McLaurin. They added Debo Samuel. They brought back Noah Brown. All right, you have KJ Osborne, Luke McCaffrey. They took Jalen Lane in the draft. They also added Michael Gallup. Like there's depth here at the receiver position. For me though, it's Terry McLaurin and okay with Debo Samuel. I'm not rushing to go get Debo Samuel. Am I seeing that wrong? Would you be interested in investing in both of these guys?
No, I don't think you're seeing it wrong. I think Terry McLaurin, clear alpha wide receiver one. This guy was wide receiver 15 on a per game basis last year. He's at the 1K mark every single year over these last 5 seasons. The only year he didn't was his rookie year where he had 900. But this is a guy that just really been held back by poor to medium quarterback play, moderate, maybe that's a better word. uh, but we saw his play and his touchdowns particularly take a big spike here with 13 scores, a lot of end zone targets. So he was looking, Jaden Daniels was looking for McLaurin in the end zone. top 24 producer in 13 of 17 games. That's a floor that McLaurin typically had not had prior to last year. So I think this guy is just a fantastic perimeter weapon. 73 of 82 catches were on the outside. So this is a guy that doesn't work the middle, which makes the signing of Debo very, very interesting to me as a slot guy because other than him, it was mostly Zach Ertz running these shallow crossers where he was just really just kind of catching and falling down for a first down. Um, I think it's a big upgrade putting Debo in that role. But again, Debo, he's entering his age 29 season. We're probably not going to get the same rushing opportunities that he saw, which were about 45 attempts or so over the last 5 years or 4 years, pardon me. I think that rushing opportunity is going to go down. The yak per reception rate has gone down in 5 straight seasons for Debo. He's getting older. He doesn't have that same explosive ability to shake and bake and take it to the house. I still think he can shake and bake and pick up more than what Zach Ertz offers, but I think he's more of a risk reward flex play. He's at wide receiver 38. Honestly, I'm not picking him there. He's the kind of guy where I prefer to pivot elsewhere. But I don't blame anybody for taking him. He's just the guy that I'll be looking elsewhere when that kind of section of the draft board comes around. So that's my kind of thoughts on these two guys. I will be prioritizing McLaurin for sure. I think he's got another top 15, top 20 season with well within his range of outcomes, even if we see some touchdowns regress, which is natural. But Debo, I feel like there's going to be people that are more excited about the possibility of him and Jaden Daniels together than I will be when he's up on the clock as the best available option.
Yeah, I mean, so look, McLaurin had a 23% target share last year, 9.4 targets per game. I think that's here to stay. Like, I think that you could safely project him for that. Who I think takes hit, like you mentioned, I think Zach Ertz, he had an 18% target share last year, 7.2 targets per game. I could see that taking a significant hit, with Debo Samuel in the picture. Noah Brown had 7.9 targets per game, 18% target share. I could see him taking a hit in the target department as well. So maybe that's where you're going to see, I think, the hits taken. I don't think it's going to come from McLaurin. I agree with you 100%. To me, Terry McLaurin has been someone I've been investing in. He's underperformed because I mentioned lack of quarterback play. It's not because of ability. And we saw it. Like he had 13 touchdowns last year. When you look at 2021, 2022, and 23 combined, he had 14 total touchdowns those 3 seasons combined. So like, I mean, there's no secret. New quarterback who can throw the football, who's good, and look what you get out of Terry McLaurin. Like that's just being honest. Like, so I agree. I think I view him as a top 12 receiver. I think he's a high floor, high ceiling play. Totally fine taking him where he's going. I agree with you, man. Like, I don't know if I'm going to be taking Samuel there in that range where he's going. I kind of like some of the running backs in that position. And then when you look at some of the receivers kind of going after, I might take the swing on some of those other receivers. I feel like there's maybe a higher ceiling. I'm not saying I'm completely out on Debo Samuel. If he drops a couple rounds or whatnot, maybe he goes in that because I feel more comfortable like maybe in the 42 to 45 range. I know it sounds silly because he's going 38. It's only a couple more receivers. But if he's going there, I think I'd be more inclined to take him. Like that's all.
Yeah.
That's maybe a
When
round
he's
or
a
two later, right? Like
yeah,
that's kind of where it's at.
Yeah, when he's a value play, he's a guy that I also think would make sense to target in DFS slates where they're facing like a zone heavy defense where he
Correct.
has that knack for finding the hole in the zone, settling down, flashing his number to the QB. I think he'd be a great weekly DFS play or prop play depending on what we're looking at. That's kind of the angle that I like with Debo the most.
Yeah, I think that's super, super sharp right there. Like that's the way to view it. And in best ball, you're gonna have some peak weeks, but maybe not as many, like you mentioned, as he had in San Francisco. And like you said, are they gonna utilize him as a runner as much? Do they need to? I don't think so, right? Like I just don't think that they're gonna do. I think in San Francisco they did a lot out of necessity at times, right? Like when you looked at their backfield, there was a lot of injuries. And I'm not,
Mm.
because once McCaffrey was healthy, like when McCaffrey was healthy, they really didn't utilize Debo all that much as a runner. Um, so yeah, I I don't know if that seating that he had in San Francisco is the one he has here in Washington. I still like him. I still think from a football perspective, I do think it's a great addition because he opens up so much for you, right, on offense and play calling. But from a fantasy standpoint, I think you're paying face value, and I just don't know if it's worth it, to have a ton of exposure. So kind of where I'm at on him. Any other receivers like I feel like Zach Ertz, like that. No, I'm not going back there because of what we just talked about. I think like Debo's gonna like cut into his workload. Are you in on someone like Zach Ertz?
I'll have probably a few dart throws in best ball t tournaments, but that's not it. Or I'm sorry, that is it. He's off the redraft radar. I do kind of have some appeal with Ben Sinnott, who was a round two pick last year. Didn't really see the field much, but like, come on, what are we doing with the Ertz? Sure, he's a sure-handed receiver. Great. Uh, Ben Sinnott can also catch the ball. He can also run after the ball. He's super athletic. I think there's some upside there. I've been trying to acquire him quietly in dynasty leagues. I just traded for him a few hours ago, actually, before recording this show. So, yeah, I'll throw him as a sleeper option.
It's funny because Ben Sinnott and Theo Johnson were the two tight ends I drafted some of last year.
Hell yeah,
Yeah, just as long-term investments. But yeah, I agree with you. Um, man, I don't know if this is the year yet, though. I hope so.
that's fair. That's
I
fair.
hope so. I hope so. And I think in best ball you could take those kind of risks, right? Like in the last rounds of your drafts, I guess you could take that kind of risk.
Yeah, I
But
would do it only in tournaments,
yeah,
and particularly FFPC tournaments where you get that reward as the 1.5 PPR for tight ends.
this backfield, Tyler, consists of you mentioned it, Barry Robinson, Eckler, McNichols, and then Krosky Merritt there. Are you investing at all in the Washington backfield this season?
It's a tough question. Last year they were a great rushing organization as a whole. That offensive line was pretty strong. They were number two in ESPN's run block win rate. They were top 10 in yards before contact per attempt. And a lot of that had to do with Jaden Daniels. He's a mobile QB that's going to just naturally boost the efficiency of offensive lines, whether that be in the form of RPOs, designed runs, scrambles. It's going to keep defenses honest. Um, Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler, when one was injured and the other wasn't, we were still looking at pretty low ceilings here of like 13 to 15 fantasy points per game. When they were both on the field together, we were averaging roughly 10 PPR points per game. Is that exciting? Not for me. I'm taking swings elsewhere. Uh, I don't know. I think they're probably best for in a redraft setting as a bye week fill-in. I don't know. They're probably not going to be on my squads that much this year, though. I'll be honest with you.
Man, I lied to you. I was on the Brian Robinson trade last year, and it was working out. It kind of was
It
working out at
was.
the beginning of the season, but of course, it derailed, and then it just never was able to get back on track. It really derailed. Um, but I agree with you. Like we were also getting him at a much, like he was coming off the board really cheap last year. Like when you look at this backfield, like Brian Robinson was coming off cheap. Right now, underdog ADP, he's RB 29, right? Like I feel like that's kind of where he is. Like you're looking at a flex play right there, right? Like a RB3. So kind of goes down to I view him that he's kind of coming off the board at face value, and I'd rather go get a discount somewhere else. I'm a bargain shopper, Tyler. I don't like to pay full price for anything, right? So if I could look around and find a bargain, I'm gonna do that. Right now, we're not getting a bargain. I kind of rather sounds silly, but invest in the Giants backfield. They're coming off the board around later. I think there's a little bit more upside there. Um,
Agree.
is that where you're at too with this backfield?
Yeah, it's just not a backfield I'm excited to draft. I will say I am excited in dynasty rookie drafts to get Krosky Merritt because you can get him at the tail end of round four. Nobody's really paying attention to this guy. He was the seventh round selection, but this guy in his 2023 season, he was pretty spectacular. Uh, Among all backs with 100 plus carries, he was top 20 in yards after contact per attempt. He was top 12 in PFF's elusive rating. There's a lot to like in terms of what he offered at his time in Arizona. Um, yeah, I think he's worth the round four selection dart throw, where maybe you throw him on your taxi squad this year, but next year he could easily be contending for RB1 status in terms of the depth chart.
Yeah, there you go. So, dynasty only, right? How about
Yeah,
sleeper? I mean, how about keeper leagues? I was gonna say sleeper leagues because we're doing our mock draft and sleeper keeper leagues. Would you consider him like with one of your last picks as someone you just pretty much hold the entire season, or will you not waste a roster spot in the keeper league like that?
that's tough because I don't see a path to him producing in 2025. And that almost just feels like a burnt roster spot the whole year. So no, I would not do that.
Right. Austin Eckler out, completely out on.
I was out last year entirely. He made me look like a fool. He had some really strong games. But he's again the type of player I'd rather just take swings on in either DFS as a punt play or possibly hitting him in the props markets. So I'm fine fading. I don't think I'm going to be missing out on anything there.
Because the thing is wide receiver five territory, right? Like so, like you're looking at some of the other wide receiver five territory. Give me a shot at Jalen Wright, Tank Bigsby. Like I want someone that I feel like has more upside at this stage of their career. So maybe that's why I agree with you. I'm agree with you here. Like that's kind of why I see it that way, though, right? Like I just feel like there are more upside, more exciting plays. If you're looking for a potential leaky floor, maybe when Brian Robinson goes down, but I rather go in a different direction too.
It's a great real football tandem.
Yes.
I love how it all comes together. I see the vision there, but for fantasy purposes, it's a different game.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with you. Anything else here in Washington we didn't discuss?
No, I mean, there's a lot of depth wide receivers, but I think they're all just dart throws. So no,
Yeah,
nothing really here.
I agree with you right there. Well, that is it. That is the NFC East, but we are not done yet. We are going to rank these positions here in this division, and we'll start at the quarterback position here, Tyler. We got some interesting signal callers here in the NFC East. Give me your top four.
I'm gonna go Jaden Daniels number one. I think this guy has a legitimate shot at MVP. Give me him number one. Jalen Hurts number two. Real close. I won't nitpick either if you like the one or the other. Then Dak Prescott, and then we're looking at the mystery box. That's what we've been labeling it.
That's
New York Giants mystery box.
Yeah, I'm in lockstep with you. I look, we said this before, right? Like Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Hurts, Daniels, tier one quarterbacks for me. Like those are the four guys. Like interchangeable, really. It's really a matter of preference. Um, and I would not fault you for drafting any of them over the other, right? That's it. Like that's where I have my tier one. Joe Burrow's right there. He's not the tier one.
Yeah.
He just doesn't have that rushing upside. So I'm in lockstep with you when it comes to the quarterbacks here. Let's look at the running backs. And I think Barkley's is a clear cut number one, right? But I think it gets super tough right after him. Um, so I would probably go with Blue at number two. Jaden Blue at number two.
Okay. I think you're a bit higher on him than I am. I might go Scattaboo.
Okay.
Scattaboo Tracy. I might actually go back to back Giants.
See, I just feel like the path is clearer, but they're same tier for me. But I'll go Blue, Scadaboo, Tracy Robinson is how I would probably those would be my top five. So it would be Barkley, Blue, Scadaboo, Tracy. And I think again, they're right there in ADP, so I agree with ADP. Like it's okay, like Scadaboo Tracy. I'm gonna do 50-50, like kind of like what I said. And then I'll go Brian Robinson. And it's just simply
Yeah, I get it.
kind of how I have it there.
No, I'm the same way. I just have the Giants backs ahead of Blue. But yeah, same five. Yep.
All right, let's talk receivers here. I think this is awesome too. Like this is loaded at the position in this division. Um, there are, let me see, one, two, there are two, no, two, yeah, two top five receivers here in this division. Entirely on the season for me. All right, but let's do our top five. Yeah, we could do. You want to do top five or top
Sure.
six?
We can
Let's
do
do
six.
top.
Yeah.
All right, let's do six.
I'm gonna go Neighbors one, CeeDee
100%.
Lamb number two,
100%.
AJ Brown number three,
Yes.
Terry McLaurin number four,
Yes.
Devonta Smith number five.
Yes.
And then number six is where we have the discussion.
I
Do
know.
we go George Pickens? I think that might be the answer.
I would be more inclined to draft Pickens than I am Debo Samuel at this point.
That's the debate. Pickens versus Debo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let's go Pickens.
So I would
Let's
go
roll the
Pickens.
dice.
Yeah. I just, yeah, it's not. super far, but yes, I'm gonna go with Pickens here.
Yep,
Um,
agree.
all right. Tight ends. This is the fun position for this division. We can go with old and boring, or we could take some upside with some of the younger guys, Tyler. Um, is Ferguson your number? I know we don't care for him, but is he the default number one here?
If they didn't pick up Pickens, I would say yes. I might go Goddard over
Okay.
Ferguson. And honestly, they're probably the same. You can put them in the same tier if you want, or flip-flop them. I might go Goddard and then Jake Ferguson. Then what do we go? Zach Ertz? Do we go
I think I'll go
Theo?
with Theo. I think I'd go with Theo there.
Okay. Yeah, we could see a passing of the torch there for sure. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
So yeah, I'm with you. I feel like Goddard, Ferguson are interchangeable, and then I feel Theo, and then go Ertz, and we're rooting for Sanat. Yeah, we're rooting for him. All right, we're rooting for
Yeah.
him. All right, Tyler, that was fun, man. I was so happy to have you back. So glad you're back. We're gonna be doing another one here at the end of the week. We're back on track with two podcasts every week. We're gonna be doing team previews. We're ready to the AFC, so make sure you check those out. Episodes 99, 100, 101, 102, all breaking down the AFC teams there. Tyler, you said the draft guide is coming up. It'll be live on the site June 2nd. There's going to be a ton of content on there. There's going to be outlooks, player rankings. You got your guides coming up. I don't want to steer your thunder. I'm going to let you to say everything you got coming up, but let us know what you're going to be putting up there early this month or next month. Sorry.
Yeah, June 2nd, we launch our draft guide. Very, very excited for that. We'll have a lot of stuff coming out on that second. But the best part about our site at Fantasy Guru, if you're not a subscriber, is that we continuously add more and more to this draft guide as the offseason progresses. A week after the initial launch, I'll be launching my best ball draft guide, which covers everything A to Z: rankings, strategy guides, how to, player targets, players to fade, everything you could ask for or need. You're also available to have access to our Discord once you join up with Fantasy Guru, where you can ask us all kinds of questions about who to take when on the clock. What do you think of this type of build versus that type of build in terms of roster construction? All kinds of great stuff over there. So yeah, check us out over at fantasyguru.com. You guys can also follow me on Twitter at Tyler Buecher.
Yes, guys. I strongly recommend that best ball guide. I talked about it the last time we were on air. I'm going to continue to talk about it. It's the best out there. Just so much great information. Make sure you're checking that out, guys. We have the PPR ranking, non-PPR, IDP, 2QB rankings, top 200. We're going to have our rookie and dynasty rankings. We are going to have positional outlooks, like Tyler mentioned, bold predictions. And then we got different league strategies, like Tyler said. We got the offensive line breakdown, coaching systems breakdown. We got a bunch of charts. I know you do the coverage scheme charts there. So much. And then
Yeah.
20 podcasts in 20 days. And we're gonna switch things up this year, right? We're gonna do a little bit different. We're gonna talk about different topics we haven't talked about in years past. So definitely be on the lookout. And it all starts June 2nd there at fantasyguru.com, and it goes all the way through August. So tons of content, weekly, daily in some instances. Make sure you check that out there. You can check out all of my work over at fantasyguru.com as well. You can follow me on the Twitter machine at Armando_Marsal, as well as on Instagram threads and TikTok at Marsal. This was fun, Tyler. Thank you so much for jumping on, man. Hopefully you enjoyed this week's journey through the mind of Marsal. Until next time.